morning, students. So in the last class we have begun with the RDBMS SQL JDBC concepts, and yesterday as the app was too down, I haven't covered much of the theory and directly I have shown you how to create an application and establish connection to the Oracle database, and also I have shown you how to add the OJDBC jar using the Java build path add external jars, and also I have shown you the ORA file, that is tnsnames.ora file, which is in the admin of the network folder in the DB home, which will make you understand your particular machine service name as well as the port number that is required for you in the connection establishment. And I have also discussed the 5 steps involved in JDBC programming. I hope all of you have tried creating your own application, which I have shown you in the yesterday's class, and I hope all of you have successfully connected to the Oracle database and then created and performed various other SQL operations as well. So just to reiterate, the 5 steps that I have discussed with regard to JDBC programming are: the very first step is loading the driver class, and the driver class which I have used is the Oracle driver, which is from the oracle.jdbc.driver package. So the package name is Oracle, which have a subpackage JDBC, which have another subpackage driver, and then in that driver package we have this Oracle driver. That's the reason we are using the fully qualified name oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver. And in order to get this class, you need to add the OJDBC jar, and that's what yesterday you have seen when I was executing. Before adding the OJDBC jar, we got class not found exception. So you need to be careful that if you are getting class not found exception, you just need to check whether you have added the OJDBC jar. If you have added the OJDBC jar, just expand it and see if you can find this Oracle driver in this oracle.jdbc.driver. If not, then what you have to understand is your OJDBC jar got corrupted. So once again, download a fresh OJDBC jar from the internet and paste it in the same location, and once again add through external jars this OJDBC jar and try to rerun the program. If anybody gets, even after adding the jar file, class not found exception, this is what you have to do. So you just need to download the OJDBC jar from the internet and replace the OJDBC jar that you already got it, and then once again rerun the program. And step 2 is creating the connection object. So for creating connection object, we are using the driver manager.getConnection. So this driver manager is the class and it has a static method getConnection, and this static method getConnection takes 3 arguments and returns the connection object. And the 3 arguments that we will be providing to this getConnection method are URL, username, password, and the URL will also contain in the form JDBC :Oracle IP address or @localhost if it is in the local machine port number service name. So this port number and service name you can find it from the tnsnames.ora file, as I have said you, and username and password. So By default, when you install, you will be giving a password. That will be the password, and username will be system. And if you can unlock it, as I have shown you in the last class, you can unlock the Scott account by using the command alter user Scott account unlock. By using this command, you can just unlock the Scott account so that you are comfortable to use Scott and Tiger. But by default, this Scott account is locked in Oracle 11G, and I have shown you how to unlock that particular account. I hope you might have tried it in your local machines as well by now. And after successfully creating the connection, you will be getting the connection object. By using the connection object, you are going to get the statement object. You are going to get the statement object. And I said you that you can either use statement or prepared statement. That's what our step 3 is. So you can either use statement or prepared statement, where prepared statement is preferable by the industry requirements as it improves the performance of the overall application. So for that reason, better to use prepared statement. And this connection have a method called prepare statement. This connection have a method called prepare statement, which will return prepared statement object. And by getting that prepared statement, then you can proceed with step 4, that is executing queries by using execute query method, especially for select statements, or for normal statements you can just use the execute update. Execute query method, we use it exclusively for select statements, whereas execute update method we use it for other kind of DDL statements. And in step 4 only we can also process results, but for processing results we have to go for result set object, and this result set have method rs.next. Sorry, if rs is the object which you created for the result set, then you will be using rs.next in the while, which will return boolean, and through this you can just get record by record, which you can retrieve each and every column, I mean the attributes, by using the methods getInt or getString with appropriate to the number type. If it is, then you will be using getInt method, and if it is a varchar type, then you will be using the getString method, and this getInt or getString will be taking an argument which will be the integer value, which is nothing but the column index. And this column indexes from the table, you will be starting it with the first column as 1 only, not like our regular array indexing which starts from 0. Because with our arrays, indexing starts from 0, but when you use the result set in order to process your table, then you will be using columns indexing from 1 only, not from 0. Just remember that one point. And once you have processed your results and you retrieve the records which you require for your application, then you can just go for step 5, which is nothing but the closing connection and statements. So this is what we have just discussed yesterday, and I have shown you how to do that with a simple JDBC example program. I just created a student table that have 2 columns with a ID and name, but we haven't enforced any constraints or the keys. I mean, directly we just created a table and we just inserted a record, and we have seen the things are getting properly connected and records are getting inserted successfully. And I have even shown you by opening the SQL command, I mean SQL plus I have opened, and there I have shown you how the table got created and the records got inserted. So all that we have seen. Let's cover few more theory topics, and then I will show you how you will be getting project and what you will be asked to do with the JDBC program. That I will just tell you at the end so that you can understand, because everyone, whatever the project you might be getting, like I have shown you in my earlier sessions, now also I will be showing you by opening my CPC project which I got for my assessment exam. So I got a flight reservation kind of mini project. So similarly there will be rail reservation project or student management project, bank account management project, Like this, there will be several projects, but whatever might be the project, compulsory you will be using this JDBC concepts. And one thing what you will be requiring over there is sequence, which I haven't covered in yesterday's class. Today I will be covering how to create a sequence and how do you retrieve that sequence value, because we require that sequence value in order to insert records into the tables. So unless you know the sequence value, you can't insert records, because sequence will be created by the server itself. Only the sequence name will be given to you in form of the project documentation. So by seeing the sequence name from the project documentation, you have to fetch the sequence value, and then you have to use that sequence value for inserting it into the table. So all that I'll just show you once I cover some discussion on theory, and we will even see what are the quiz questions that are asked. After exploring some theoretical knowledge and checking the answers for the quizzes, then we will see how the project will be asked and how do you create sequences and how do you get that sequence value. All that I'll show you. So that's what today's agenda. So as I said, from this time it will be low. That's the reason I have already opened all these files. Here you can see what are the topics we are going to cover. So introduction to RDBMS, Oracle G introduction. So all these things we have to discuss. So I have already opened all those files. Very quickly we will discuss what are the things which we haven't discussed yesterday. So you need to understand all these basic definitions, file management system, and why we are going to DBMS, and what are the drawbacks of file management system, and by going to database management system, what are the benefits you are going to get, and what are the functionalities of database management system, and then the database models, which are nothing but the hierarchical model, network model, relational model, and then the object oriented model. So these are the basic 4 types of database models, and we are using the relational database model, even though now the object oriented database models are also in existence, but still we are using the relational database models, because whatever the databases you look at in the market right now, that is, it can be Microsoft SQL Server or the Oracle database which we are using in our application, or it might be MySQL, or it might be IBM's DB2. I think you might have heard about all these terms. So these are the different databases from different vendors. So Microsoft has its own database, named it as Microsoft SQL Server, and Oracle have its own database, named it as Oracle database itself, and MySQL and IBM DB2. So all these are the different database that uses this relational database model. And coming to object oriented database models, it's the future which will be with object oriented concepts, and the best database models that are in existence that uses this object oriented models are Gemstone and Genome are the best database models that applies this object oriented database concepts. So anyway, these are all the things you just need to understand, and this definition I have already discussed yesterday itself. So data is nothing but the facts, and database is nothing but logical collection of such facts. So this is what the basic definition you just need to remember. So data is the facts and database is collection of such related facts. Coming to file management system, so it is the set of computer programs that maintains the data stored in a file system, and it is the very traditional method of retrieving the data. When you have huge amounts of data stored, it's a traditional method of retrieving, and which is very expensive, and which is time taking for retrieving and storing information, all that. So for that reason, we will be going to database management system, and here you can see the drawbacks of file management system. So with file management system, it takes more space because of redundancy. Most of the times redundancy will be there, due to which consumption of storage is more, and even the structure is not organized way. It's very much unorganized fashion, due to which it takes more time for performing some operations. And another disadvantage is there won't be much security. So these are all the drawbacks that we face with file management system, and that is the reason we moved on to database management system. And this also I have discussed what are the things we are going to do as part of database management system in yesterday's session. I have already mentioned the benefits of DBMS. So whatever the drawbacks you find with file management system, they are being overcome with the use of database management system. So the redundancy is reduced, thereby you can save storage, and next, inconsistency is avoided, and sharing of data is also become very easy, and standardization is enforced, and security is also applied by using the constraints. All that we can ensure security also, and integrity is also maintained by the use of locks. By using locks mechanism, integrity is also maintained, and finally data independence is also provided. So this is what the advantages you get by going to database management system. So metadata is nothing but information about data. So whatever the data you are going to store, the information about that particular data is nothing but the metadata. So in general we will be calling it as data about data. That's what the term we will be using, data about data. That's why I said it's nothing but information related to data. That's what metadata says. And coming to the database architecture, you can see three levels of abstraction. External level, that is to the end user level, and then the conceptual level, that is the designer perspective, and then the internal level, which is nothing but the storage perspective. So these are the different levels of abstraction. I hope all of you know what you mean by abstraction. Abstraction is nothing but hiding the unnecessary information and projecting only the essential information. So everything need not be projected to the end user. So for that reason, this database architecture can be seen in three levels of abstraction. As you can see, external level is the end user perspective, conceptual level is nothing but the designer perspective, internal level is nothing but the hardware perspective, that is in terms of storage perspective. So these are the three different levels of abstraction, and here you can see with a simple example how the things can be organized with respect to three levels of abstraction. Here you can see an example of employee database, how it is being shown in external level. So external level you can see for accountant, whatever the information he requires, this is what the accountant view, and for project manager, whatever the information he requires, you can see the project manager view, and similarly for regular employees, there can be employee view. Like this, different user perspectives, you can have those views. And coming to the conceptual level, this is what I said, the designer perspective. Here you can see all the information put in a single place. And coming to the storage view, here you can see how it is being stored in the database. So using a structure. So internal storage, this is what the internal storage, what you can see over here. and the database service name ORCL. So it is the Oracle database. So that's the reason service name ORCL. And the same thing here it is represented in diagrammatic way. Here you can see in relational view. That's the only difference. And these are all the differences between the file management system and the database management system. I think you can just read it and understand. So file management system is very simple to understand than compared to the database management system, and file management system is less expensive than compared to the investment you need to incur with the database organization. And the data is separated in the file management system. Here the data is shared, and sharing is very easy in database management system than compared to file management system, and redundancy can be reduced with the database management system than compared to file management system, and no standardization with file management system, and standardization can be enforced with database management system, and there won't be any security control with file management system, and both security and integrity can be enforced with the database management system, and effective utilization of resources will be with the database management system than compared to the poor utilization that we have with file management system. So these are all the various differences that you need to remember with regard to your assessment also. And coming to the data models, so basically the data model will be of three types, that is the conceptual model, physical model, and representational model. Here you can see for conceptual model we will be using the ER diagrams, and anyway I already said it is the designer headache, so you will not be worried much, you will be only at the implementation level. So conceptual model is nothing but ER diagrams, so you need to understand ER diagrams, but anyway the designer or we will be calling it as the architect. In industry terms they will be known as software architects. So they will be doing this design, and then your task is to perform the implementation. Over your experience of 10 to 15 years, definitely you can become the architect who will be having command to perform this kind of designs for a given project. And physical model, here as I said, these are the different database models that are in existence. Hierarchical model, which is the very oldest kind of model, hierarchical model, and IBM's information management system was firstly implemented in hierarchical model only, and it is the IBM company only which have first come up with their database, and they have used this hierarchical model. But I think hierarchical means you can understand it's nothing like a tree structure where sharing is not possible with that kind of model. There are certain limitations with the hierarchical model, but still IBM is the first company to come up with their own database which they have used this hierarchical model. And as I said, one of the limitation with this hierarchical model is the sharing of files was not so easy, because you know that in a hierarchical model every file will have, every node will have only single child, and there won't be any back edges, due to which sharing is not possible. And later, by identifying the limitations with the hierarchical model, network model have come into picture, and HP's Image 3000 is the best database model that have gained importance by the use of network model. And with the network model, sharing have become easier. But even though sharing was becoming easier, but still the dangling references played a major impact there. It's like a graphical model. Network model is nothing like a graphical model where you can have edges here and there moving from one node to other node. You can have even cycles, all that. But removing a node will leave you dangling pointers. I think you might have known about what I am saying. So that's what the limitation with the network model. So with the network database model, sharing have become very easier, but leaving us with the limitation of dangling pointers concept. And then comes the relational database models, which we are going to discuss now because that's what our concentration is on. So relational database models, as I mentioned, here we are going to use completely relations where we are speaking of tables. Relation is nothing but a tables, and these relations contain tuples and columns, or you can also say attributes. So that's what the relational model is all about. And as I said, I have already given you the examples like Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle Database, MySQL, and IBM's DB2 are the databases that falls under this relational database models. And object-oriented model, this also I have given you the example. The future is of the object-oriented database models only, where I have given the examples like Gemstone and GBase are some of the database models that uses this object-oriented model. Anyway, these things you can just go through. I have already said you the problems with each and everything. Here you can see object-oriented model similar to that only, and one live database system for each of these models. Anyway, I have given you the examples now. You can name any one of them for that. Coming to introduction to DBMS, so relational database management system and features. This also I have covered yesterday, I think. Properties of table, key and types of keys, referential integrity. So here you can see in relational model everything is represented in form of tables, and benefits. This also we have discussed yesterday. So it's an interactive query language. It's very easy to create multiple relations and enter data into them. Retrieval of information stored in more than one table is also possible by using all kind of joins and referential constraints. You can just retrieve information stored from more than one table, and provides catalog or dictionary, which itself consists of tables. And I think these all terms I have said you yesterday also. Relation means a table, tuple means a row, attribute means a column, degree means number of attributes or number of columns you can say, cardinality number of tuples or number of rows, primary key unique identifier for the table. Next, domain is pool of values from which specific attributes of specific relations draw their values. Best example is you can draw a sub table, or you can also create a view. That's what domain is all about. So you can just create views and even create subtables by using the select query. Next, table or relation properties. So these are the basic properties. So you can never have duplicate rows, and tuples are unordered. In the order what you insert, they get over there. Only thing is, while retrieving you can just sort them and display, but while storing they will be unordered. Similarly, attributes are also unordered. Next, all attribute values are atomic, which is nothing but singular values. Next, relational databases do not allow repeating groups. And next, coming to keys. So this also I have discussed yesterday. Key is nothing but for uniquely identifying purpose. For uniquely identifying, you will be using keys, and there are several keys, but the mostly used keys for our applications are basically primary key and foreign key. So primary key is one key attribute that is chosen to uniquely identify a table, and foreign key is for joining two tables with their primary keys. Here you can see the example is also given. Here there is a table enrolled and a student table. In enrolled table you can see SID, and in student table also you can see SID, which both are primary key, and here you can see the foreign key referring to SID of student relation. So whatever the SID here in the enrolled table, it should be existing in the student. So without the SID existing in the student, you cannot have this SID in the enroll table. So this SID should match with the SID of the student. So that's how you will be using the foreign key constraint. And simple quiz, identify the following from above tables. So primary keys of both the tables. So you can just look for the unique values to determine the table. So stock code is the primary key in stock table, and similarly stock code is the primary key even in the movement table. Obviously foreign key is going to be stock code in the movement table. Foreign key will be the stock code in the movement table. Next, degree of table 1 and 2. So degree means number of columns. By looking itself you can just tell. So degree of table 1 is 5, degree of table 2 is 7. And next, cardinality of table 1 and 2. Cardinality is nothing but number of tuples or rows. So you can see that cardinality of table 1 is 4 and cardinality of table 2 is 5. And next, nullable columns of table 1 and 2. So nullable columns are nothing but having null values. So which columns you can see? So quantity on hand and average cost you can see in the stock table, and in movement table similarly you can see supplier name and document number which are not specified. So you can just see and answer those things anyway. So this is all about Oracle 11G only. So here you can see the person name. It might be required for you in the assessment. So Dr. E.F. Codd proposed this relational model for database systems in 1970. So I think this you can just remember for assessment point of view, because you will be having quiz questions. Is there anything here? And here you can see the conventions that you need to remember with regard to the entity relationship model. So while you give attributes, you just remember these points. So attribute names are to be singular names. It should not be separated words. If you are having multiple words, then better to use underscore, and it should be in lowercase. These are only the naming conventions, but even though you don't follow them, you will be able to successfully execute your applications. But just remember, any naming conventions given to you, always try to implement them, because it improves the readability of your code. It improves the readability of your code. For that reason, always try to practice the naming conventions. So as you can see, attribute namings, when you are going to give, just make sure that they will be of singular name. And if you have multiple words, try to use the underscore for those words. Like if first name and last name are your column names, then try to use first underscore name, similarly last underscore name, something like that, and use only lowercase. And here you can see, if there is a star, it's a mandatory field. If O is there, it's an optional field. Similarly for entity, it is also singular, unique name, and it should be in uppercase. And then softbox. So softbox is nothing but, here you can see there won't be sharp edges. Here you can see you will be having a circular edges, something like this. So that's what softbox is all about. Next, synonym in parenthesis. So examples here you can see employee, department, which are the entities. That's why represented in capital letters. And number, here you can see, since it's a number, hash is represented, and star indicating it's a mandatory field. Next, name. Hash is mandatory as well as primary key. That's what hash represents. Here you can see the notations were also given. Hash primary marked, and star mandatory one, O optional one. So job title you can give or not for employee. Similarly department also, Department number is the primary key and mandatory field. Department name is also mandatory, and location is optional field. So that's what there you can see. And again the same as we have seen in the previous file. So here department ID is the primary key in the department table, and foreign key here again the department ID of the employees, which should match with the department ID of the department's table, and employee ID in the employees table is the primary key. So here you can see the summary of the types of commands. This I have discussed yesterday. Here you can see the summary. So DML commands: select, insert, update, delete, merge. These all commands come under DML. Create, alter, drop, rename, truncate, comment. These all commands come under DDL. Grant and revoke come under DCL commands. And commit, rollback and save point come under transaction control. So save point yesterday I haven't said you, I said only commit and rollback. So save point is nothing but you are going to keep like a bookmark for your notebook, so that whenever you want to go back and continue your reading, what you will be doing, directly you will go to the bookmark. Now in similar fashion you can create save points during the creation or manipulation of the tables, and whenever you wanted to go back, then you can just execute rollback, which you will be going back up to the save point which you just created. So that's what the save point is useful for. So it's just like adding a bookmark in the reading notebook, so that when you want to resume you can just go there. For that reason here also you can just create checkpoints, and whenever you perform rollback you will be going to the previously created checkpoint. So anyway, SQL developer we are not going to use. We will be using only SQL plus, which I have shown you, and you don't require also, because our task is only to perform the all DDL or DML operations, so which you can even do it with the SQL plus. So I haven't installed any SQL developer, but still we can perform all kind of operations even in the SQL plus terminal itself. So here an ER diagram is just given for your understanding with regard to the employee database only. So entities you can see given in capital letters, and all attributes given in small letters, and as I said you can see the separator used as underscore, and this is how you need to make sure that you will be following the naming conventions. So separator will be underscore but no segregation, and the blue color things here what you can see are the primary keys, and here by mistakenly they might have given the start date as blue color, but start date I don't think it requires any primary key. Employee ID itself will be sufficient for. Anyway, employee ID is a foreign key here, which has to match with the employee ID of the employees table. So that's what about this. And next, retrieving data using select statement. So select also I think we have seen very simple and plain way of looking only. I think most of you might be knowing only the plain way of representing, but in the assessments compulsory you can expect some different ways of asking the select query. So just you need to have a careful observation of this select usages, because I think most of you might be familiar with only selecting using star or column names and from the table name. That's the only thing we will be using, but you can have different varieties of using select queries. So let's examine them. So here you can see select star, which indicates all columns, or you can use this distinct in order to get only unique features rather than any duplicate things. You can give one column or multiple columns separated by commas, and also you can give alias names if you wanted to display like select id space role, like that, which indicates instead of displaying me as id, I am saying to select id column, but I am asking it to display the heading label as role. I hope you are able to understand. So that is what the alias is useful for. So alias is for alias names for the column names. So here you can see select usage. This I think everyone knows. So star indicates selecting all columns, and here you can see specific columns are given. So that particular columns will only be retrieved from the inventories table. And while writing SQL statements, these points need to be remembered. SQL statements are not case sensitive, so you can either use capital letters or small letters, but it applies only for the SQL statements and not for your attribute names. Just remember this point. So for the SQL statements, you can write in capital letters or small letters, but while you give the names of the values, compulsory you need to use the case only. As per the case only you need to call. Like if yesterday I have retrieved my record which I created with ID 1 and name as Krishna. Na? Suppose if I want to retrieve records with Krishna, so I have to write something like select star from student where name equal to Krishna. In this, everything I can write in capitals, but Krishna, it has to match exactly the way which it was inserted. Like I have inserted it as K capital letter. Yesterday, if you just recall the insertion which I made, Krishna, I just used K capital. So it has to be given K capital only. I mean, the values must be referred with respect to the cases, but the statements can be either used in capital letters or small letters. It doesn't make any difference. That's what the point. SQL statements are not case sensitive, but values compulsory, it will be case, strictly case. Next, SQL statements can be entered on one or more lines. Obviously, you can enter it in a single line itself and press enter, but it's not a good way of making the others to easily understand. For that reason, what you will be doing is, as you have seen here, select and then the column names, and from you are writing in separate line, and this is what I am saying. So here you can use select and from, all these things in small letters also, doesn't matter. And keywords cannot be abbreviated or split across lines. So just remember that point. I mean, SEL and then ECT you can't give in the next line. That's what the point is. And in SQL Developer, SQL statements can be optionally terminated by a semicolon, but in SQL Plus it's mandatory. So this is what the difference. But in SQL Plus, mandatorily you need to give semicolon. If you don't give semicolon and press enter, it will fall in a new line and still cursor waits there asking you to continue with your query typing. So in SQL Plus, semicolon is mandatory, but in SQL Developer, optionally. So clauses are usually placed on separate lines. That's what the where clause or from clause you can see falling in separate lines. And the indents are used to enhance readability. So far we have seen, but in general, when you have multiple selects written in a single query statement, then you will be using indenting for making it easily understandable. Anyway, these are all the alignments fashion. So here you can see how things are being aligned in Developer and SQL Plus. A simple comparison was given to you. As you can see here, numbers fall in the right side alignment, strings fall in the left side alignment. Similarly, date also falls in the left side alignment, because date is also string type only. That's the reason. Here you can see all names and dates will be falling in left side, numbers falls in the right side. It's only the alignment representation. And this is all about SQL Developer, and these are the basic operators. So here you can see how it is being used. So this is how you can even perform arithmetic operations over the columns. But make sure that all the arithmetic operations you are going to apply it only on the number type columns, not on the string type columns. Always the arithmetic operators should be used only over the number type columns. You can just try and experiment what happens if you try on the string type columns, string or date type columns. If you try this arithmetic operations, what happens? You can just experiment and see. It will just say not a number. It will just say not a number as error. So always make sure that arithmetic operators that you are applying will be only on the number type attributes. The same thing, there we have used addition. Here we are just doing the multiplication of the quality on hand by 12 times and then the summing up 200 value. So just to make you understand with brackets and without brackets, here you can see multiplication will be first performed and then 200 will be added. Here 200 will be added first to the quality on hand and then it will be multiplied by 12. That's what here the difference values you can see. So null is also allowed. That means if you are not specifying any value, so here you can see everything. This is what aliasing is all about. Here you can see product ID as product, and this is also fine. Here order also you can see this is also fine. It's not mandatory to use the as. If you use as or not, but immediately if you are giving alias name just to the next of column name, automatically that will be the name which will be displayed in the output. Here you can see instead of product ID, product is being shown to you in the table. I hope you are observing. So product ID as product, when you are saying, obviously instead of displaying or returning you as product ID, it will return you as product. That's what you can see here. Similarly, quality on hand, quantity. So instead of giving you quantity on hand, it just gives you quantity. And using double quotes or not is optional. Whether you use the double quotes or not, it's optional. That's what, just to make you understand, here in the next query you can see with the use of double quotes. And as keyword is also optional. As I said you, using as keyword is also optional. So attribute name, immediately you are going to give the aliasing name. And the aliasing name will be your column label. When displayed, the aliasing name will be your column label. And double quotes usage is optional, as I said you. And this is what the concatenation operator. So this concatenation operator, you can just use it over any number of columns. So automatically what happens is, whatever the number of columns you are going to give using this vertical bars, 2 vertical bars, automatically all the values in those 3 columns with regard to each and every tuple will be concatenated and then displayed. Since it is from multiple columns, you want only one single column name to be displayed for all this concatenation. We are using this alias name again. That's the reason we are using the aliasing name. As you can see in this example, select first name concatenated by last name as name. So instead of displaying the first name separately and last name separately, I can just use single attribute name and I can get concatenation of first name and last name and display it. And as I said, this concatenation, it need not be among string data type only, it can be of any data type. I mean, I can even give role concatenated with name, concatenated with date of joining, concatenated with salary, something like this. So you can just see different typed attributes I just said you. So roll number, it will be of number type. Next, name will be of string type. Next, date of joining will be of date type. Next, salary will be of some real value type with decimal value, I mean. So you can concatenate all these things also, and you can just give your own alias name what you want there, as I said, like this. So here, as I said again, as keyword is optional whether you give it or not. Giving double quotes is also optional thing only. Just remember these points, because compulsory you will be getting for this second assessment most of these SQL queries. So for that reason I am stressing much on this, because your second assessment will comprise of this RDBMS most, and you can expect these select statements with various kinds of twisting you. For that reason I am saying as keyword usage optional, double quotes usage optional, and if it is immediately following after the column names, obviously it will be the aliasing name. So even you can have some string also concatenated in between the column names, as you can see in this example. That's what using literal character strings. Here you can see the example. So product ID concatenated with a string is in warehouse, concatenated with warehouse ID. That means actually you have product ID and warehouse ID, but while concatenating these two, if you want to also keep another string literal in between these two, that also is possible. That's what you can see the example using literal character strings. So product ID concatenated with the string is in warehouse, concatenated with the warehouse ID, and the aliasing name is product warehouse. Aliasing name is product warehouse. And here you can see in the output, product warehouse is the column name, and then this is the product ID, that is 1733, 1734, 1737, 38, 45, 48, 22, 78. All these are the product IDs, and then the warehouse IDs. It's not completely shown here. The warehouse IDs are started with something with 1, and is in warehouse in between. Is in warehouse in between this product ID and warehouse ID. I hope you are able to understand. So this is how you can even add string literals as concatenated to your attributes. So that's also possible. And similarly, if you want to have single quotes concatenated, that is also possible. So for adding single quotes, this is how you have to do. So here you can see select department name concatenated with single quote. For saying single quote is there, you have to write like this: Q apostrophe and then department's manager ID in brackets. So this is how you can even specify, and then that is concatenated with the manager ID. And that's what here you can see department. First one I am saying administration is the department name, and then department's manager ID, which is represented in the single quotes here, and then concatenated by the manager ID, which is 200, which you can see here. Something like this. So you can see marketing, shipping, IT, sales, executive, accounting, contracting. All these are the department names retrieved from the departments table. And next, department's manager ID is the common string which you can see in all these things. That is containing the apostrophe, single quote. And then here you can see 200, 201, 124, 103, 149, 100, 205, all that. One ID is missing here anyway. So all these are the manager IDs taken from the departments table. So this is how you can use, and I hope you understood why this Q attribute has to be, Q literal has to be used, because we are using single quotes for the strings, and if you directly write department's manager ID, what happens? Before T there will be a single quote, and then when after T there is a single quote, obviously it treats it as end of the string. That's the reason we have to use this kind of square brackets and prefixed by Q, indicating it is there is a single quote present there. And then there you can see next, use of distinct. So use of distinct is nothing but getting you unique values, and here you can see department ID is chosen to be distinct, and you will be getting different department IDs only. So duplicates you don't get. As you can see in the first one, you can see department ID 2020, 2 times it came, 110, 110, 2 times it came. Coming to the second one, even though the null is being displayed, but still it's not repeated. So this is how you can use the distinct keyword in order to get the unique attributes only. Next, this is all about developer anyway, don't worry. And I think this this is in studio, but whereas with our SQL plus you will be using DESC directly. In order to get the description about the table, you directly use the keyword DESC. So DESC table name will give you the complete information about that particular table, that is the attributes and then the types and then the constraints, all that it will give you. Okay, very quickly quiz. Identify the select statements that execute successfully. So see the first one. Select first name, last name, job ID, salary into 12 as yearly sal from employees. Is it correct way of writing and will it execute? Yes, it will execute because first name fine, last name fine, job ID okay. Next salary, since it is a number type only, and I said you all kind of arithmetic operations can be applied on number types. So that's the reason salary will be multiplied by 12 times and the column name will be as yearly sal and you will be getting it displayed. Fine. Next, coming to the second one is also the same thing. I already said you can use the alias name in double quotes or you can just leave it as it is. As keyword is also optional, I said you. So second one also will execute successfully. Oh, sorry. One small mistake what we have to carefully observe. This is what missing. Yearly sal. As you can see, there is no underscore. So the separator is not properly used. So here you will be getting first one error only you will be getting because yearly and sal are not joined by the underscore operator. So the first one will give error. First one will give error. Second one it works fine because terminating character is double quotes, right? So that's fine. I hope you are able to understand what I am saying. Here in the first one, yearly sal, there is no separator joined, that is underscore is not there. And coming to the second case, here you can see in double quotes. So everything in double quotes will be treated as the alias name. Obviously third one also fine. Only difference is as keyword is used. So anyway third one also will execute successfully. Next, coming to fourth one. So this will give you error. I hope you can understand because I already said you first name plus last name. Definitely plus is an arithmetic operator which cannot be used among non-number types. First name and last name are of string types, I mean varchar types, but you cannot apply them using plus. So you have to use the two vertical bars for concatenation, but here you can see plus is being used. So if it is in case of our Java code or Python code, you can get the concatenation, but in case of the select query, this will give you error because plus cannot be applied among non-number types. So fourth one will not execute. Coming to fifth one. So obviously you can understand this will also not execute because fifth one you can see warehouse ID as product. This is fine. But what about the second string? So second string you cannot say for it is for what. So that is wrong. So fifth one will not execute. Next, coming to sixth one, order ID concatenated with is in. But again if you observe, it's not alias name. And where are the quotes? Here the quotes are missing. We have seen just before how to use the string literal also concatenated in between the attributes. So here order ID is to be concatenated with is in, but no quotes used here. So this will also raise error. Sixth one will raise error. So write an SQL query to display all the quantity on hand in the warehouse with warehouse ID. So it's a simple statement which is asked you to display all the quantity on hand. So you can just write select quantity on hand as warehouse ID from warehouse. This is what you can write. I repeat, select. You will just use the word select, and this as it is, quantity on hand as warehouse ID and from table name warehouse. So this is how you can simply write it. That's it in this file. And this is very important, restricting and sorting data. So all kind of strict enforcing on the data, you will be using this particular limitations. So where clause, I think all CSC people definitely know the use of where clause, how to use it, and what are the other things that you can use it with where clause. But EC people, I don't think you might have learned these things. So restricting the rows using where clause. So this is what the syntax. So this you already, we have seen in the previous file, select clause up to the from table. So where condition is the one which is optional. That's what it is represented in square brackets. Anything represented in square brackets, you just understand that is optional value. So by using this where clause after the from clause, you are going to impose conditions with which you require retrieval of the records. So you want to retrieve records based on certain conditions being met, that you are going to specify in the where clause. And here you can see the very first example. You want to retrieve order ID, order date and order state, order status from the orders table, where the order status value is only 1. So that's what you can see, the records that are retrieved matching the order status value as 1. It's a very basic example, but still you need to see more. Here you can see order mode direct, hire date. So the point need to be understood here is, if it is integer, I mean number type, not integer, sorry. If it is number type, you can directly use it. As you can see here, how it is given without any quotes usage. But if it is whatever the where clause, the value what you are specifying, if it is of date type or string type, you have to use the quotes. That's what the point to be noted here. So order mode equal to direct. So single quotes usage is must. Single quotes usage is must. Similarly, hire date. This also you just remember, this is the standard date format, DD, MON, YY. This is the standard date format, DD, MON, YY. And these are the comparison operators that you have to use. I think I need not explain about the first 6 comparison operators. The 6th one carefully observe, not equal to, the general way of using is exclamation mark equal to, but here the not equal to has to be used with less than, greater than. So just keep that in mind. Remaining things I think you already know, equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. They are the same notations which you have been using since many years. So not equal to, with programming languages mostly you are familiar with exclamation mark equal to, but here in SQL we will be using less than, greater than. This is what the not equal to, and between is the one which you will be using in order to say in between the values, including the values which you specify. And similarly in order to match your required condition among the list of values. So in operator you will be, in command you will be using in order to have your condition matching with the list of values specified in the set. Similarly, like, in order to have a matching character pattern, so for that you will be using like. Is null, in order to check for is a null value. Yeah, you can see all the relational operator examples here. So order ID less than or equal to 2400. So you can see all the order IDs which are less than or equal to 2400, 2354, 2355, 2356. So like this. So this is what the less than or equal to usage. And similarly, here you can see the between usage. So 3100 and 3108, including these values, you will be checking. So where product ID between, and carefully observe, before the attribute and before between, you will not be having any other words. Don't use your regular English like a product ID in between, like that. I mean to say, generally we will be using in English like where product ID is in between, something like that. Na? That's what I am just saying. Product ID between lower limit value and upper limit value, and including this lower limit value and upper limit value. That's what you just need to understand. And use of in operator. So don't combine any of these two. Don't combine any of these two. I mean, none of the two can be combined. Less than or equal to was combined. Now don't ask like that, because less than or equal to itself is the one single operator only. So none of the two operators can be combined. I mean, in and between you can't combine. Here you can see where order ID in, as we have seen above in the description, in operator is used to check whether this order ID is having something among these lists. Only those things will be retrieved. So order ID that is available with this list of elements only will be retrieved. That's what in operator. Similarly, like. So as I said, you like is used for pattern matching. So you can see like yes percentile. Percentile represents any number of characters. So only thing you are saying is first name should start with yes. Here this particular query, what you are asking is, you are asking all the records, that is the first name from the employees table, where first name like yes percentile. You are just asking one condition, that to retrieve first names that start with yes. You are asking to retrieve first names that start with yes. Any number of characters. Percentile means any number of characters, whereas underscore denotes one character. Yeah, here you can see. So select last name from employees where last name like underscore O. That means it can have any character as the first character, but second character must be O and followed by any number of characters. I mean any characters and whatever the length. I repeat, here like underscore O percentile represents the first character can be anything. The first character can be anything. Second character must be O. And next you can have any characters of any length. That's what here you can see the names that are retrieved in the output: Kochar, Lawrence, Morgus, where the first characters are KLM, second character is O, and then you can have any number of characters and any type of characters. That's what you can just understand. So underscore, one single character of any type, percentile, any number of characters, any type. That's what you just need to remember with regard to like. And next here you can see for testing for null values, you will be using is null. You will be using is null for testing null values. And these are the logical operators. Again, I need not tell the truth tables for them. So and or not. So and means if both are true, or means if any of the thing is true, not, negation. Example queries were also given to you here. So you can see here where order mode equal to direct and customer ID equal to 103. You can see the thing highlighted in blue square box. So both of these conditions should be true. Both of these conditions should be true. That is, order mode must be direct as well as customer ID must be 103. Instead of and, if I am using or, means either of this can be true. That means it will retrieve all the records with order mode equal to direct as well as customer ID is 103. That's what if I use or. Yeah, here anyway there is or example also given. So where order status equal to 0 or order total greater than or equal to 1 lakh. So that means it will retrieve the records that matches order status value 0 Also it retrieves the records that matches order total greater than 1 lakh. So that's why you can see here order status 0, even though this total is not greater than 1 lakh. Here you can see the first record 70,647 only, the second record 46,257, but still they are retrieved because of order status matching with 0. And next here you can see order status not matching with 0, but the total value greater than 1 lakh. So that's what the OR clause. And here you can see not in. So in we have already seen which matches with the list of values, not in which does not match with the list of values. That's what the thing you can just see. And this is the operator precedence you need to remember. Obviously parenthesis plays the major role. If parenthesis is there, nothing of this precedence you will see. First thing you will be evaluating the parenthesis only. So this is what the operator precedence you need to remember. And coming to the rules of precedence, here you can see the red color highlighted will be first evaluated and then the blue color will be evaluated. So here you can see when you are having warehouse ID equal to 9 or quantity on hand equal to 150 and product ID equal to 3139. So as you have seen in this precedence, which is having higher precedence, and the 8th one, and is having higher precedence than or, that's the reason here first and will be evaluated. So once the records are retrieved based on this and condition which I have selected, then the OR clause will be applied. Now here you can see the use of parenthesis. The same thing, the same query, if you observe the difference between the first one and second one, for the second one brackets are used. So when parenthesis comes, then the precedence will not come into picture. So first you will be evaluating the parenthesis expression only. So that's what the difference you can see. And next order by clause. This is also very important. So order by is used to retrieve records in ascending order or descending order. And even you can have multiple attributes after the order by clause. So when you have multiple attributes after the order by clause, so obviously based on the order how you are writing, accordingly the things will be ordered. I think there are examples with the multiple. Let's see. Order by order date. So obviously the default is ascending order. If you want in descending order, you just need to suffix it with DESC keyword. So if you use DESC keyword, obviously it will be coming in descending order. Otherwise it comes in ascending order. Even you can give the column index also. Order by 3. Automatically the third column is sorted. The records are retrieved and they comes in sorted of ascending order of the third column. That's what here you can see. You can even give like this column position also. Yeah, this is what I am saying. Here you can see multiple attributes are given. Here you can see order by department ID, salary, descending. So what happens is, first what it will perform is, it performs the ascending order of the department ID. Because department ID is not suffixed with any keyword like DESC. So by default first what happens is, it retrieves the records, that is the last name, department ID, salary columns will be retrieved and sorted with the department ID ascending order. After that the salaries are sorted in descending order. Just like in Excel, if you know how to use filters, you can understand what I am saying. In Excel, if you might have used filters any point of time, you might be understanding what I am saying. So what you will be doing, you have some table and then you have just applied filter. So the entire first row you can see the filter symbol, and first thing what I am doing is I am selecting the department ID filter and then I am clicking there sort A to Z. So it will come in ascending order. And next I am moving my mouse cursor to the salary column, and there again I am clicking the salary filter. There I am clicking sort Z to A. I hope you are understanding. So first what happens is, department ID, it is sorted in A to Z order, and next salary, it is sorted in Z to A order. That is what sorting by multiple columns. So even like this, you can give order by multiple columns fields like this. So when you give multiple attributes, it just orders things in the given order. Like here, department ID first sorted in ascending, next salary in descending. Suppose if you are given comma, last name, then again what happens after sorting salary in descending order, again last name will be sorted in ascending, something like that. So you can even sort by multiple columns using the order by clause. So this is all which we have seen now, and using ampersand in order to read value from the user. So here you can see select product ID, warehouse ID, quantity on hand from inventories, where product ID equal to ampersand product ID. So this is the SQL developer window what is being shown. So in the SQL developer, when you run this, automatically since there is ampersand, immediately it will raise a dialog box like this, and there it will ask you to give the value. But the same thing even in SQL plus also you can do. In SQL plus also you can perform, but only thing is you don't get a separate dialog box. Directly there itself in the SQL console, it will ask you the value. Okay, very quickly I'll just show you, because again you may get a confusion. So let me use the yesterday's table which I just created. So I am just giving my username, password, Scott and Tiger. So I hope you can see the screen. So let me just check whether the table is there or not. Select star from student. Yeah, it's there anyway. So here you can see one is there now. So similarly, I'll just use it. Select star from student, where ID equal to ampersand ID. So this is how, and this is what the way how you have to give. Even I can type this entire thing in single line, but thing is it will make you understand if I just do it in the naming convention style. So here you can see select star from student, where ID equal to ampersand ID. So I'm not specifying the value, I want user to give the value. So here you can see enter value for ID. So I'm just giving 1. So as you can see, it have just retrieved that matches with ID. Suppose if I can even give with the name also, but only thing what you just need to remember is, okay, since I have given like that, it's coming from student, where name equal to ampersand name. So what happens, you just see now it will be raising error, because for number type you can directly give like this ampersand ID what I have given just here. For number type you can directly give like this, but for name type you can't give like this. You see what happens. Now it's asking me name. Now if I just give Krishna, so you can see invalid identifier. So this is what you just need to remember. So what you have to do is, so you must and should give for name and date attributes, I mean string, where name equal to, so you need to use single quotes for character and date types. Just remember this point while you are using and. So now I can give Krishna, no rows selected. Okay, this is what you just need to remember. Here Krishna is in capital K, so just need to remember that. think I made a mistake. Just a second. Okay, select star from student. Okay, where name equal to ampersand name single quote. Okay, so earlier I just missed giving capital K. Yeah, here you can see. So just remember this one point. So when you are using this ampersand, if it is number type you can give it directly, but if it is string type or date type, then you have to use this single quotes. Yeah, as I have said you, here you can see. So even in SQL Plus you can use every of the queries in these examples. You can just try and explore them. You can even read multiple values. That's what the multiple ampersand what you can see. Just remember, wherever you see ampersand, that's for reading input value from the user. And which of the following are valid operators for the where class? So first one, is it valid? Yes. Greater than or equal to usage is a valid. Is null, is it valid? No. I already said you. Sorry, is null is valid. Is null is valid. Is like is not valid. Not equal to, the third one is wrong, because not equal to you have to use the sixth one. Sixth one is the correct way of using not equal to. And is like, no. Like is only single keyword. In between, this is what I already said while saying about between. So between also single keyword only. You cannot combine in and between. So the first one is valid, second one is valid, and sixth one is valid. 3, 4, 5 are not valid. So anyway, I'll just stop it here. Let's stop it here, and tomorrow we'll discuss remaining concepts, and we'll try to put full stop to this RDBMS SQL JDBC. There are many things still I haven't discussed about the project asking. I already said you I'll show, but since it's been more than 1 hour, I'll just stop it here. And in tomorrow's class, I'll show once again my project, and I'll tell you how JDBC project question you will be getting, and what are the things you need to take care while creating your project for the final assessment. So any queries with regard to today's session, you can just post it in the comment section, else you can post your roll numbers for attendance. I'll be waiting. You can post any queries in the comment section or post your roll numbers for attendance. So as I don't see any queries, I hope all of you have given your attendance. Let's wind up for today and meet again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. and we try to complete this RDBMS SQL JDBC concept tomorrow along with the end exam project discussion as well. Thank you and bye.